Good morning, everyone. I'm Donna.
And I'm Naomi, and welcome to Quality Sewing's So Fun January 2021 event. So it's been a while since we've seen you guys, and we really miss you, and we really can't wait to get back in the store. But first thing, I want to go over a couple things. We are going to be doing some drawings today. We're going to do 3 drawings throughout. We're also going to have 3 drawings that we will draw on Tuesday, January 12th at noon Pacific time. And to get entered in those drawings, you need to be posting pictures of your show and tell. And we really want to see them all, so just keep sending them in. We don't care if you have like 5 or 10, just send them in. They're great.
How do they do that?
So on Facebook, so her question is, how do they do that? So on Facebook, you're going to go on to this video, and in the comments, you can post the picture there.
When we're done. You cannot post your pictures until this video feed is no longer live.
Yes.
Correct.
So yeah, you'll have to wait until we're done, but just you can start scrolling through your phone and find all your pictures that you want to post. Also, make sure, let's see, if you have not printed your product list, you can get this through your email, but you can also get it, I believe, down in the comment section on this live feed. So print that out and you can follow along with us. Now, the first product we're going to be talking about today is Walk 2.0 book. And in this book, it has a lot of great, and I'll have you come and take a look at this. It has a lot of great options. And this one right here is a 60-degree design. It's 60 diamond crosshatch foundation for many designs. You use a 60-degree line on a ruler, and you do 1.5-inch intervals, and it's on page 31. And then you kind of build on top of that. And this one, all I did was I added a equilateral triangle and grid, point to point. And then to build on that one, I did this one, and this one you add another set of parallel lines, dividing them into half diamonds. This one is argyle. It's a variation of a crosshatched. In this one you use 2 different threads. You use a heavier weight and a lighter weight and 2 different colors. This one is called fish scales, another variation of the diamond crosshatch. And then you add a gentle scalloped edge. And I did my best to try and do a nice color that you can see it on this fabric. And then this one, I really enjoyed this one. This one's called Intersecting Boomerangs, and this is a grid-based design. It looks very complex, but it's very easy to quilt with very little marking. It just has a lot of great detail. This next one is called Tangent Geometric Design. So in this one, you have a template, you draw a circle, and then you have lines that go, and you want to make sure each of the line touches the edge of the circle. This one is very similar, but in this one it's called a rose spiral. This is a curved wobbly pattern, so you have your template, and then you kind of go around wobbly, and you really want to make sure you don't echo. So you're avoiding the echo, so you don't want it to line up. It's really hard because you really want to echo. So you're kind of going against your brain. And then this one, let's see, this side kind of sees better maybe. This one is called Sashiko Inspired Designs, and this one is a chevron, and this is a channel quilt. And then you do, excuse me, then you do point-to-point zigzags.
And where can they find these designs again, they're asking?
So they can find this one in the Walk 2.0 book.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Then I have one more. And this is the dimensional arrows. And first you do a 45-degree angle, and then you do some channel lines, and then you do a 90-degree pivot. So with this stuff, what I do is I like to use chalk and a ruler or a marking pen, and I put all my lines down so that I'm not fussing with tape. But you can also use tape. You just need to use whatever you feel comfortable on these projects. But with this book, if this is 2.0, so if you haven't bought the first one, don't feel like you're going to be completely lost. She has a great section in the beginning that kind of reviews it. And what I really liked about this book is a lot of quilts you'll see on patterns, it'll say quilt as desired. She has a section in the back that's a whole quilt as desired reference guide. So now I'm going to hand it over to Donna, and she's going to talk more about Walk 2.0.
I've mentioned Walk 1 in many of my presentations, and Jackie Gehring, the author of this book, virtually changed my life in quilting and my confidence in quilting. I'm not a free motion quilter. I want the feed dogs up, and I want to just quilt with my walking foot. So I did get the Walk number 1, and when Walk 2 came out, I was so excited that we could bring that to you here the first month of 2021. And the designs in here are wonderful. And I'm going to show you now one design in person at the machine. And this is the Sashiko chevron. And you saw Naomi's sample, but this is the way I created mine. I do like to use masking tape. So I've created all my channel lines with the tape. And then I've just marked off my 1-inch grids with a pin. And her philosophy is, if your eye is looking at this pin, then your needle is going to travel right to that spot. Now I usually take my last stitch by hand so that I can land right on that line. Not the pin, but the line. Take the pin out, and then you're going to rotate and head for this pin. Like I said, if your eye is looking at your destination, you should hit it right on. And if you take that last stitch by hand, you won't actually stitch the pin. And I have the pins set at an angle so that as I approach them, I'm coming straight on. So, there you get an idea of how to create that Sashiko chevron. Okay, back to Naomi.
Thanks, Donna. So we're going to jump into embroidery. The next one is Playtime puzzles.
Could we back up just for a second? We had a customer ask, how do you do curvy lines with masking tape? Does she explain this in the book?
Can you repeat the question?
Okay, so, well, Donna should probably answer this one because she does more of the masking tape.
The two don't mix. So, yes, how do you do curvy lines with masking tape? The curvy lines are the free motion of the walking foot stitch. It's just how you guide your fabric through, and you don't have to use masking tape at all. The masking tape is just for straight lines, and as you can see on Naomi's samples, and I have one here too, this is the rows. So it's really your choice how you move and walk the foot around to create those wavy lines. So, good question, but they're two different techniques.
Okay, any other questions? Are we good? Okay. Yes, bring the questions, you know. So, like I was saying, now we are going to talk about Playtime puzzles. This one is a embroidery in the hoop puzzle. And if you come right here, you can see the little dinosaur one I made. And this comes in 3 different designs. You have a lion, alligator, giraffe theme. You have a dinosaur, and then you have a little farm. The instructions are very easy to follow. I like to print out each of my pattern or my piece, and it will give you all the colors. And then I write down all my, so this is, I think they say Madeira rayon, but I use my Floriani. So then I write down my numbers next to it. And as I move through the patterns, I know which color number I'm going to use for the next puzzle piece. This also has an SVG file. And if you don't want to cut around it in the hoop, you can pre-cut your felt on your scan and cut. And then all you do is you put your felt piece down, it stitches around, you trim, and then it finishes the stitching of all the other colors. At the very end, you're going to place, I just used a white felt, and then it does the little satin stitch around. And this is a great, fun gift to give to like a toddler or an older baby. And so then you can really, you know, they're going to be safe. And now Donna's going to show her super cute one.
Okay, my Playtime puzzles, I did the jungle. And you use water-soluble stabilizer. I ended up using 2 layers of water-soluble. That gave me the best stability. And I also did something that I found out later, Lana says you should never do. And I used, I used Best Press 2, which we have this month. I used it to stiffen up the felt, but it took forever to dry. In fact, it never did dry. I had to iron it and iron it and iron it, but it did give the felt a little stability. Regular craft felt is really flimsy. Now you can buy a little bit more expensive quality and it's stiffer, but that's kind of the beauty of the puzzle, is stiff enough that the pieces fit together. This was my sample, and if you've seen my embroideries before, you know I love to change the sizes on my puzzle pieces, or my embroideries. Don't do it on the puzzle pieces. They are calculated perfect so that everything fits together and all the designs flow. So 2 layers of wash away. You insert your felt, you do all your stitching. This is a great way to use up some of those oddball spools of embroidery thread that you really don't know how you got them, but they're fun. The patterns are fun, and you can do really creative things in terms of, I mean, these are the coconuts, but who ever heard of coconuts that color?
When asked if this was Mylar. Do you have any Mylar in this design?
No, there's no Mylar, but there's no reason why you couldn't add it. Yeah, so you would add it before you laid down the bulk of your stitch. Although if your stitch is too heavy, it might not show. So that's the beauty of a Mylar pattern, is the stitch count is a little bit lighter so that you can see the Mylar through. So then at the very end, you're going to trim your puzzle piece, and I then inserted Fast to Fuse Light, which gave me the stiffener on the back. Now, be sure when you go to press this to flatten it out, if you use fast to fuse light or medium, use a Teflon pressing sheet and a wool pressing mat. You don't want to tamp down your stitches, and you don't want the fusible, which fast to fuse has fusible on both sides. You don't want this stuck to your iron. So you can see some of that fusible. And then I just went out and got strip magnets and set them across the back of the puzzle. And this will hopefully end up on my daughter-in-law's fridge.
Question, Donna. What are the size hoops that you can use to make this? And then I'm assuming you'll be discussing the difference between best press and best press 2 later in your presentation.
Yes. The hoop size, I couldn't get the pattern to fit in my 120 by 120, which is my smallest hoop, which is about a 5 by 5. I never learned my millimeters. So you need that extra 5 by 7 length for this piece here. Such a good question, because I was disappointed. My next hoop is like this big. And I thought, what a waste of wash-away stabilizer. So what I ended up doing is stabilizing this large hoop and then creating 2 puzzle pieces. I ran my design all the way up to the top to create the first piece, and then all the way down to the bottom to create the second piece. So the pattern does say you need a 5 by 7 hoop, and I just used my large one and then did 2 at a time.
So someone did ask, how long does it take to stitch out?
How long was yours? I know how long mine was. So the dinosaur one took me just under 5 hours. And I will say, just because like it says you need 3 different grass colors, I only use 1 grass color to make it easier. But so just under 5 hours for the dinosaur one.
I didn't keep track. I did mine over a series of evenings, so I didn't really keep track. The final step is this satin stitch. So you do a tack down stitch, you cut everything away, and then it does this beautiful satin stitch, which allows the puzzle to stand on its own after you cut away the wash away. So full instructions on how to get rid of the little tiny leftover bits of the wash away. You just touch it with a little wet toothbrush or a Q-tip, and then everything is just finished off. It's super fun, and I'm excited to see my grandsons play with that. So anyway, that brings me to the Lexi carryall, which is our bag this month. And it's a really cute crossbody bag with adjustable straps. And my bag is created from a batik, polka dot batik, and Craftex, purple Craftex, the designer type that's already been pre-washed. So those are my inner pockets. There went my glasses. And then I did use the lace zipper, which is an item that's coming up on the program. Actually, Naomi's doing a demo, and she will show you how to apply that lace zipper. So I intended to put it on the side zipper pocket and across the top, but I hadn't read the instructions fully, which is par for the course. You can't lay the zipper over the edge of the purse because of where the straps are placed. So the straps actually come out of that zipper seam. Now, you know me, I very rarely follow a pattern completely. So Naomi's bags will be correct. The zippers are really shown to be tucked in the seam, but I wanted the tabs open so that I had something to grab onto. So my tabs are hanging open. And then I used a Sally tomato zipper that I had on hand. And then it's got 2 subdivided pockets on the inside. And although you can't see it, the quilting pattern on this is the Sashiko chevron. And you can see a little bit better on this accessory bag I made. There's your Sashiko chevron. And here is my second zipper. And there's the application of the lace zipper. So these zippers come with a kind of a bronzy pull. And on the purse, I just took a silver Sharpie and just colored that pull so that it matched the rest of my hardware. Okay, now we're going to talk about Naomi's bags.
Oh, there's Naomi. I only follow the pattern. No, I'm joking. So with my Lexi carryall, first let me say, if you have ever sewn a lazy girl design, she does amazing patterns. She's very thorough. She has great pictures and steps throughout. She does in this pattern have an option of a right side and a left side. So depending on which side you like to carry your bag, you can change that or alter the pattern a little. This one I made out of denim fabric. And it's got that, like she said, the cute little pouch on the front. And then you have more pockets inside, which is hard to see. But this is a great size for wallets. And then you have another pocket on the back. I like having a purse that has a zipper on the front because I can stick my keys or my phone in and I know it's secure and I won't lose them.
Naomi, could you make that bag out of vinyl?
Yes. Yeah, I see no like a fabric vinyl. Like, yeah, I see no problem with that. I would only do it on the outside and then still use a lightweight on the inside. And then the second one is made out of Tula Pink. And same style. And the ones I made are, they go across my body to the right side.
Can you put that on so that we can see how?
And so it's not extended all the way, but this allows it so that you can access your zipper. I mean, you can still do it the other way, but you're just going to have this side. It makes it so, how she was saying at the top here, this attachment, how the handle attaches, you want that closest to your body. Because if it's crossing over the zipper, it's going to be in the way. And this one, yeah, like she said, I used the 101 Shape Flex, which we brought in, and I also paired it with the 987 Fusible Fleece. I just love her patterns. I just have to say that. I do. When I love a pattern, I'm very passionate about it. So the next thing we're going to talk about, Donna used the lace zipper or the zipper lace, and you can kind of see it maybe a little better. It sticks out, hopefully. And I'm going to show you how to install it. Now, this is not a pattern. I took 2 pieces of fabric that was 9 by 14. I just picked a random size, and I then ironed a Shape Flex 101 onto both pieces, and I'll show you over at the sewing machine how I made it. So like I said, you're going to cut out your 2 pieces of fabric first. And I put that shape flex on the back. And then you're going to sew them together, right sides facing each other. And you're only going to sew on the short ends. Now at this point, what I recommend doing, because you're going to be flipping it, but before you flip it, take your seams and open them up. And I usually finger press them and then I hit it with an iron. So when you flip this, it'll lay nice and flat, instead of trying to iron it at this stage and trying to get that crease. So then you're going to take this and I've already sewn one side, but you're going to place your zipper just how you would normally see it. You don't have to worry about flipping it. This is a decorative zipper. So you're going to just lay it on top, and it's nice because when you take this, pretend this is ironed and all pretty, you're just going to lay it just like this, and you're going to line up your zipper with the edge of your fabric. And then you're going to pin, and you're just going to sew right down. And you don't have to use a special sewing foot for this. You can use your regular foot. And then once this side's attached, you're going to want to have it, lay it like this. And then what I do is I pin at this stage, because then I open it and I'll flip it, and then I can sew it. Instead of trying to line this up and make sure everything is even, I do it beforehand. So then we're going to sit down at the sewing machine. I'm going to move my needle over. And of course I have it pinned the wrong way, but we'll get through this, right? Okay. So then, get this under there. And I'm using black thread so you can see. Move that needle over more. Okay. Okay, are you ready? Here we go. So then, we're just going to start sewing. And we're just, it's going to go very quick. Pull that pin out. And then we're going to cut it.
Naomi, can you use seam tape instead of pins to hold the zipper down?
Yeah, you could use seam tape because it's usually clear after you remove the paper piecing, so you can use that as long as you're okay with maybe a little bit of shininess underneath it from the tape.
You can also use a glue.
Yeah, you can also use like a basting glue. That's another good option. And then you're going to zip it up. So I use black thread so you could see it. Now at this point in the bag, you are going to decide where you want that zipper to be. Do you want it up higher, or do you want it in the middle? So you can kind of play around and get creative with this. And then all you're going to do is sew. Let me flip it. So there's 2 options to do the seams. You can sew it like this and do a French seam. So you're going to sew your 1/4 inch, and then you're going to flip it inside out and then sew 3/8 of an inch, and then your seams will be hidden. Or I just do it, you know, I'm okay with a raw edge on the inside. You can flip it around. And like I said, this is where you figure out, and then you're just gonna sew. And then I do recommend when you sew this, I sew this side first, the side that doesn't have the zipper pull on it. And then I open it up and I sew it. But also, one other nice tip, make sure, I sometimes like to throw a couple stitches right here, so when you open it, it doesn't come apart. And then you're just gonna flip it, and you're gonna have this nice little cute pouch with this really adorable decorative lace zipper. And we're gonna go back to Donna now. And please let me know if you have any questions.
Could you put the zipper in before you sew the two pieces together?
The two pieces of fabric? No, so typically, since this is a decorative zipper, you want to hide these raw edges. And so that's why you kind of make this tube. You create the tube, and then you have a nice clean seam here, and then you attach your zipper.
Great. Thank you.
Yep, thanks. Back to Donna.
I'm going to tell you all the available colors of the zippers, and Naomi is going to show you which ones they are. Or maybe, yeah. I'm going to start with the list, Naomi. Buttermilk.
Okay, if you wanna. Okay, here's the buttermilk.
Canary yellow. Deep blue sea. I think that's navy.
Or navy. Deep blue sea. There we go.
Flamingo. Lipstick. Navy.
I don't have lipstick.
Navy is the color that I used. Isn't this lipstick?
This is ruby.
Oh. Okay. Lipstick is the mystery color. Robin's egg blue and ruby. There you go. Well, I see that maybe we've got a lipstick coming to us shortly.
Can you trim these zippers down? Oh, there's lipstick.
Yes, you can trim the zippers down. So when I made my little bag, I trimmed it down. Because the zipper is a 14-inch zipper. And like I said, I only did cut 9 inches of fabric. So I cut it quite a few inches off. And you can play with it.
Here's lipstick. Lipstick.
Yeah, we already have
Oh. And what a super deal. You know how expensive zippers can be. These with your So Fun discount are just $2.39 a piece. So order lots of colors. Right now we're going to stop and we're going to give away a prize. And this is called Your Nest. And it's built so you can slip all kinds of things in between those silicone prongs. Scissors, pencils, like a small ruler, anything that will slip in there and just hold it handy next to your sewing machine. And our winner is Rosalia Cardenas McDonald, and our Facebook manager, Carrie, will be getting in touch with you and coordinating how we're going to get this to you soon. Okay, a couple of really cute items that we have going on this month. This is called Today is the Day notepad. It's really cute. Besides being so handy, it is a multitasking notepad that has the date, the day of the week, a great big long list of things to do section, a small appointment section. You can keep track of your hydration, a small box for fitness, which is, I probably wouldn't even use that, and a box for happy thoughts. Now, what a great thing to do is come up with a happy thought every day and mark it down on this tablet. And the other item this month that I thought was really super handy, the Ever So light. Now this is 2 LED lights on this flexible wire. It comes with 2 pieces of Velcro. And the suggestion is that you put this on the upper arm of your machine where you need extra illumination. I actually have mine on the back, and then I brought my wire underneath. But it gives you 2 really bright spots to illuminate that dark area under the arm. And you get the electrical plug-in, or if you don't want to take it on and off your machine, it comes with a cord where you can just plug it into your USB port if your machine has a USB, and it will charge as long as my machine has to be on to charge, but you can charge either of those 2 ways. So, and then on and off switch, and there you can see really how bright it is. I won't flash that in the camera, but it's a great little item. And Naomi has a couple of items to talk about.
I have a couple other products that we brought in that I've really enjoyed using. The first one is by Kimberbell, and these are called stabilizer slap bands, and it comes in such a variety of colors, and these all say something on them. So that says ultra light cutaway, medium cutaway, and on and on. And these, if you remember, the 90s, 80s, we had kind of things similar. You can, like a slap band, but this is for your stabilizer. Because I know we all try to hold on to those pieces of paper in the center, but this way you can keep it all contained and you don't have to worry about it coming unrolled, because I know that's very easy. And so these are available as a package deal of 13, and you get a wide variety. The next item is the other Best Press 2. And I use this a lot in my quilts that I will be talking about later, but for small pieces, you can really get a nice, crisp piece of fabric. All those 2.5-inch squares you're going to sew together. Also, it's still very soft to the touch. Now, I also have a giveaway, and this is for Sharon Richmond. And you got this Magical Thread Easy, and we will be in contact with you.
So a couple questions have come in.
Yes.
The first is, on the bands, the slap bands,
Yes.
are they all different? And also, can you write on them?
Okay. So they are all different. There's 13 of them, and they all say different things on them. And they're kind of a rubbery plastic. I probably wouldn't write on them. I mean, maybe if you're using like a dry erase marker or something that's going to come off. I mean, it's yours. You can use a Sharpie if you want to, but yeah, so they all say different things though. And they're really, I mean, filling them, they're super heavy duty, and they're great.
So someone's asking, how do they get in on the prizes?
How do they get in? Okay, so how do you get in on the prizes? After this video, right, you're going to be posting pictures of show and tell items, and on Tuesday next week, January 12th, we will be drawing at noon Pacific time for more prizes.
And for the live prizes, just them being here
Yes.
is how people are winning. They're logged into this, and that's how they're winning live right now.
Yeah, so if you're watching live right now, you've already been entered in to win prizes. We have one more prize we're going to be giving out today, a little bit later in our presentation. And so that, yeah, the next route would just be to posting the show and tell pictures. So keep watching. Make sure to follow us on Facebook so you always get notifications when we are live streaming. Click the like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube at a later time, and follow us, check us out on Instagram also.
And then what is the main difference between Best Press and Best Press 2?
So Best Press 2 is going to be a little more crisp, a little more starchy. So it's gonna it's gonna be stiffer. And then let's see. Oh, so then it's me still. So I'm gonna talk about the next one, which is our dry ideas. I'll just hold up right here. And this is a drying mat. And it comes in 2 different sizes. And I made a couple. So here is the large. And you pair it with the basil material. And this stuff is great. You can load up a bunch of wet dishes, and then all I do is I either hang it or I just kind of stand it up on end, and it dries so quick. So you don't have to worry about that soggy mat anymore. And then I use the Walk 2.0 book to do my quilting. And you quilt on one side, and then you do an envelope. You pull it, and then you do your top stitch around. So I've got my Christmas themed one. This one's a little more fall themed. And this is the same. I use the Walk 2.0 quilting ideas. And then I also made it in smaller sizes. This is like the little RV traveler size, they say. And then I've got my little spring Easter themed. And this is great because sometimes I'll have my big mat on my counter and I have like 3 cups left. And so I just need a little more room, so I'll bump it next to it. And it's a great way just to add a little more space. And like I said, these dry very quick. You can wash these and then tumble dry low. And there's 3 different designs. There's one in the pattern, if you can see, that has cute little wine glasses. And it just takes 2 fat quarters. And you'll have a completed project within a couple hours. And now I'm gonna send it over to Donna. She's gonna talk about her versions.
So my dry idea mat, I wanted to make it quilt as you go. So the original instructions have you make the front and the back and turn it inside out with the bosal. And so it's the envelope type of construction. I just stitched my strips starting at this end, stitch, stitch, stitch as you go, and then it was all quilted on those seam lines. What that did was it created an extra step for me because then I had to put a binding on it. But I don't really mind. I like the contrasting color of the binding. And talking to our SoFun manager, Lori, she came up with some great ideas to use these to dry out rinsed vegetables, or maybe there's just a couple pieces of plastic Tupperware or lids that are left from the dishwasher and they never seem to get those seals dry. So just an extra little place on your counter that dries out those things out of the dishwasher. But I went a step further, and my mat coordinates with our next item, which is called Pint-sized parking. Now this is basically the same thing. It's fabric with soft and stable, or you could use the bosal in it, but you end up having a little square that's subdivided, and mine matches. So now what my dry idea mat is a table accessory that I could actually put some glassware on, or a bowl of fruit or anything that I wanted to highlight, or use it as a centerpiece. So mine are all these seaside prints. And you can see the inside of the pint size matches the back side of the dry idea. So you could fill this with the pint jars, like its name suggests, with picnic silverware, straws. You could put it out for a wine party and just have it full of wine glasses to pick up. Or I made a second one and I just extended the measurements a little bit higher. And I left the divider out of it, and it's perfect for this luncheon size napkin. Now, should I want to go back to the divided side, you do make this just like this. I just didn't stitch it in on the side seams. So I have dual purpose now on this little item. So that's the pint-sized parking, and Naomi's going to show you hers.
Thanks, Donna. I really like her idea of being able to take that centerpiece out, because sometimes you need something for napkins or something larger. Mine, you know, if you recognize the fabric, it's from a quilt shop hop several years ago, and I still have fabric laying around, and I just use some canning jars, and then I, like she said, use the soft and stable, and this takes 2 fat quarters. And I will say, when you're sewing, it gets kind of interesting at some parts, but it's very forgiving. Like, you can squish this down and it bounces back, no problem. I will say, for the binding, I did hand stitch it on, just because I'm weird like that, and I don't know, you spend so much time on some of these projects, you just want to make sure you finish it off nice. And so I use my scrap fabric, and I'm very happy with how this one turned out. Any questions? We're good?
I do have one question regarding the dry mat. Someone asked if we thought you could use that as a trivet to put hot dishes on.
So the question is, can the dry mat be used as a trivet?
So, yeah. So let's see. So I would not, because I would be afraid that it would melt over time. So I would not use this like in hot pads or a trivet to keep things safe. What do you think?
But I have a suggestion. If you leave the bosal out and just use regular quilt batting and some Insulbrite, which has got this foil infused section, then it would be perfect for a hot pad trivet.
Yeah.
And you want to make sure that when you use Insulbrite, that the silver faces the top, so as the heat touches the silver, it radiates away from your furniture and not down into your furniture. So you could use 2 or 3 layers, 1 layer of Insulbrite and a couple layers of regular batting, and you could just don't use the bosal.
One more question, Donna.
Mm-hmm.
What is, or me, soft and stable? So soft and stable is a thicker material. It's great for purses and bags, and
It's a double-sided foam that both sides are covered in tricot. And it's typically used in a lot of the Bayani patterns. And it is very similar to bosal, a little bit thicker. And the beauty of soft and stable is it has kind of the tricot gives it kind of a stickiness. So when you go to quilt on it, your fabrics tend to sort of lay flat and don't do a lot of walking. But it does help the sides of your creations stand up on their own.
And who makes soft and stable?
By Annie. That's the name of her company. She's got a whole line of patterns and then accessories that go with it. So it's Byannie, by Annie.
And could the drying mat be used in the bathroom as a shower mat?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I see no problem why it couldn't be. I mean, the mat is only 15 by 17, but yeah, it could definitely be like a little kid's drying mat or something. That's a great idea because I have a teenager boy who sops water everywhere, so that might be the next thing I make. Good idea. Okay, so the next item, you can see I'm wearing it. This is by, I'm probably going to pronounce it wrong, Jolie. And this is a jacket pattern. And in this pattern, it gives you several options of different colors, arrangements, and I'm kind of plain. No, I like just solid. So I went with just blue all over. It has a two-way pocket, so my hand will go here, and I can also put stuff here. And this pocket's great for your keys or phone, won't fall out. It is fully lined. It has elastic at the bottom, so it stays it hugs your body. And then the collar, everything kind of just lays flat. But, and then I use ripstop fabric on both the outside and the inside. I wanted something more like a windbreaker, lightweight. And then you also have this little shield, zipper shield. And it went together, I think it probably, I was like, oh, I just got to get this done. And so I think I sat down and I cut it out one day, and then I did all the sewing the next day. So over a couple days, you know, like I said, you can really change it up with some of the color options. They've got some cute different options here. If you kind of zoom in on this one, I really like this one, how they use print. And you can use different types of fabric on this. It'd be really cool to make like a heavier weight jacket. And I'm going to pass it over to Donna. She's going to show you her version.
So when I first saw this pattern, it was just a picture, I believe, on the computer. And my immediate reaction was it was a vest. And I love vests. So when I got the pattern, I said, oh, I don't really want to put I don't want a jacket with sleeves. And I had intended to do just a plain vest to start with. But this was my muslin, I guess. And I cut it out extra big and then did a lot of tailoring up the side. I did put the sleeves on it, which is something that I saw on a Martha Stewart Halloween program. She had this beautiful matte silver vest with these little cap sleeves. So I thought I'd at least use the sleeve pattern. I have made it longer because I think at my age it's more attractive to have a longer garment. And I want to do a Throwback Thursday for those of you who have been in the Seattle area for a while. Remember back in the 90s when we used to shop at the Jansen Fabric Outlet, and you could get swimsuit lycra and the beginnings of fleece and all these new technology type fabrics that you couldn't get in the stores. So back in those days, when we did a fleece garment, we didn't know how to finish the edges. So Jansen provided you with swimsuit lycra that was pre-sliced. And then you would just stitch it around the edge of the cuffs or the collar, and then your garment was finished. Having that in my mind, I did go out and I specifically found this fabric because I knew it would match this package of lycra that I've had for 20 years. and it still stretches. And so that was kind of the beginnings of this idea. So I put the binding across the yoke in the front and the back and around the collar. And it's like bias. So you just stitch it on like it was a quilt binding. You fold it to the back side, and the beauty of it is, let's see if I can find a place. Here's where I haven't done it. Oh, I have done it. So you fold it to the back side, and then you just trim it, and it does not ravel. So you start with this large a piece, you bind your edge, and then when you cut it, you've got these little tiny scraps left, and that is how I created all the open edges on my really wild purple vest. So,
Did you quilt the jacket fabric?
no, this is pre-quilted, came like this from the fabric store. So that was one really time-saving effort. Now, I do have some fabric at home that's pre-quilted, but it's not lined. So I want to get around to making that vest, but I am going to have to put a lining in it. And that'll take care of those open seams around the armholes, because the lining will cover that up.
Could you go over the size range of that particular pattern?
Yes, thank you for asking about the size range, because that's one of the features of this pattern company. They go from a child size, like a 2-year-old is what they're calling it, so probably a size 2, to a 2XL, which is a woman's size 24. And within those size ranges, say the extra large size range, there's 3 different measurements you can pick from. So there's a small, medium, and large, extra large. I went into the 2XL range because I wanted to make sure that I had plenty of room, and it turned out huge. And so then I did some resizing. So it runs very true to size, maybe a little bit bigger. What did you find, Naomi? A little big?
I think it runs a little big. My size is a large, but I wanted to make sure that I could wear, like if I was wearing something thick, like a sweater or something underneath it. But I have plenty of room, wiggle room. So this is a large though. So it is a little big, but I'd rather have it a little big than too tight.
That was my idea too. I wanted to make sure that if I wanted to put a heavy sweater on underneath it, that I had plenty of room to still be able to zip it up. And over the last 9 months, the pounds are just coming on. So I believe we are now at another giveaway. And we have Easter Garden Table Runner. How time appropriate is that? You'll get it in time to really get something done before Easter. And it's going to Barbara Oakley. Barbara, you'll be hearing from us, and we'll coordinate how to get that to you. Okay, I'm going on to the Snuggle is Real. And this is our second embroidery. And these are the sweetest little children's designs. And along with that, we have the baby onesies that you could stitch on. They come in peach and gray. And we have 3 sizes for you: 3 to 6 months, 6 to 9 months, and 9 to 12 months. Now, once again, I did not read the instructions. I stewed and fretted for a couple of months about taking this onesie, ripping it open up the side, stitching it back together, reserging it on a serger that I don't really like. They come open. The greatest idea I've ever heard of. So it's already serged, it's already open, and so whatever method you choose, all you do then is just do a straight stretch stitch to close it. Now, I'm not a real confident embroidery person yet, and so I was worried about making a mistake and ruining one of these beautiful onesies. And so I did a sample. It turned out okay. And then the next 3 tries, I ruined the fabric. But that was okay because I was working on a piece of, I actually think this is an old t-shirt. Not an old t-shirt, perhaps one that I bought that at Goodwill that had never been used. You can get some great t-shirts that have logos on them, and then the person decided they didn't want to wear that company t-shirt and they just give them away. So I have just used the heck out of this chunk of fabric. And so you can see that I have done my embroideries as appliques and then just stitched them down. And then here's the little 4T t-shirt that goes along with his little brother. Now I want to show you up close how to do this. You create your embroidery with this no-show mesh, which is a really soft, lightweight mesh. And I found what worked really well is 2 layers of this, plus the Best Press 2 to stiffen the t-shirt fabric. And then I hooped everything really tight. I stitched out my designs. I cut them with my rotary cutter and my round ruler, and I stitched them on a dryer sheet. The next step is to use your pinking shears, or you can, because it's a knit, it's not going to ravel, cut to within about 1/8 of an inch of that seam, and then slice open the back of your dryer sheet and turn and lightly press those edges. And now you've got a great applique circle that you can put on your onesie if you're worried that perhaps maybe, like me, you'll make a mistake. So here is the Don't Make Me Call Grandma design in both boy colors and girl colors. The Snuggle is real. And then you saw To the Moon and Back. No, you haven't seen To the Moon and Back. It's coming up right now with Naomi.
Okay, like she was saying, the stabilizer we use, it's very thin, and it's great for thin shirts and onesies because you don't see that line. Thank you. You don't see that line with the poly, the no-show Polytex. And I don't know if she said this already, but I just love the packaging of this. I mean, it's in this cute little container, and it's adorable. But so for this one is Birth. Nailed it. And I left this one open so you could see. You just cut, when you're done, you just cut around your stabilizer, and it's very soft. And then all you have to do is sew it up. I also did Love You to the Moon and Back. And I closed this one up already. But these designs, you don't just have to put them on onesies. I've seen where you can put them on tote bags, or if the child has a towel they shower with, you can put it down the corner, one of the cute sayings. You know, it's endless. You know, you can make it smaller, bigger, just play around and have fun with it. It has, did you say how many designs are in it?
14.
Yeah, so it has 14 designs in this, and it's
Two sizes available, 4x4, 5x7.
so 4x4 and 5x7, 2 sizes available, she was saying. And there's just so many options and different ways you can create with this.
And what brand is this stabilizer?
The brand is Eversewn. Let me go around. Yeah, Eversewn.
There was another question directed to you, Donna. You mentioned a circle ruler. Could you tell them what that is?
Say that again.
The circle ruler, they're asking about what is a circle ruler?
The circle ruler is something that Charlotte and I brought in a couple of years ago, and it's a package of 4 or 5 size rulers that start at about 3 inches and go all the way up to 6. And we can special order that for you if that's something that you would like. I probably would have never even given them a second look had Charlotte not said, we need to show these this month, and I use them all the time. The secret is you take the ruler, and if you're going to use a rotary cutter, you could trace with a wash away pen and cut it by your scissors. But if you're going to use a rotary cutting tool, you need to have a tiny little blade. And I believe the one that we used that month was 18 millimeters. So, Lori, what's the best way to follow up on something?
I suggest they contact their store, and then I can get that information out to the stores.
Contact your local store about the rulers, and they'll contact Lori and we'll coordinate if that's something that you're interested in. I love them. I use them all the time. One thing I did want to mention, I felt that my embroideries were sort of rough and had knots and tie-offs on the back. So I got a hold of Lana, who is our t-shirt embroidery guru, and she suggested that if you do the stitching straight on your garment and not have the garment underneath, and you're worried about any knots or uneven areas, you can use Floriani Dream Weave. It's soft and fusible, and you just iron it on the back of the inside of the t-shirt to cover up those knots. So, okay, back to Naomi.
Thanks. Okay,
Hey,
so
Naomi, real quick, are there 2 bodysuits per package?
yes, so in the packaging, there are 2 bodysuits per package, and you'll get one with a polka dot style and one with stripes.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. So now we're going to get into quilts. We're going to talk about the quilt book we brought in. It's Time Saving Quilts. And this is all with 2.5-inch strips. So if you have jelly rolls or just love strip quilting, you're going to love this book. So the first book, or the first quilt we're going to talk about is this one, and I'm going to have her kind of zoom in and look at it while I kind of give you some info. This one is called Jardin Blue. It's 2.5-inch strips using 2 jelly rolls, or you can pull from your stash and make your own strips. I used a green, teal, and blue with a pop of orange. I just love that orange. And they are 12 by 12 inch blocks. And you end up making 30 blocks, and then Come on, ladies. You know me.
Minky.
Minky. So I matched it with some orange Minky. And then I did have my long arm quilter. She did all the quilting on my big quilts for me. But you know, and just a reminder, I have the quilt top with Warm and Natural and then the Minky. So that's the first one. The second one is called Strippin' Hexies. And this one, the block sizes are 6 by 6. You will also use your 60-degree ruler, which I know we've brought in quite a few times, I think. I used, so you end up sewing your strips together and then you're going to cut your triangles and you're going to flip your ruler to get different coloring. And I used all solid fabrics, solid color fabric. And then what color is the back, do you think? I used a nice hot pink. And if you kind of look at the quilting, she kind of echoed the design a little bit. And this one has, I mean, this is a large quilt, but it has a nice design. It's light on the inside and then it kind of fades out and you get more color on the outside.
Where do you get your Minky?
So I usually get my Minky. We have a shop up in Bellingham, but I'll get Minky from like fabric.com. They have a nice selection of extra wide Minky. And then I have one more quilt. Let's walk over this way.
Do you have a seam down the center of your Minky backing?
No. So my long arm quilter, she doesn't like to quilt Minky if there's seams in it. So that's why I only do quilts that will fit the 90-inch Minky. I will say this one was very close and I ended up, because the long arm quilter needs 4 inches on each end, so I ended up sewing fabric onto my Minky so that it was big enough. I'm gonna get that Minky. So then this one right here is called Galaxy. And if you look at it in the book, it has a different look to it. It has greens and browns. And I looked at it and I thought, you know, these kind of remind me of stars. So I went all patriotic and I wanted to do red, white, and blue. And if you look close to the fabric, the blue is, they're all tone on tone, so they all have stars in them. And then this one has 8.5 inch by 9.5 inch block is one of the blocks. And it's kind of a little wonky when you put it together, but then once you kind of keep going, it just forms. It's amazing how some of those projects, you're like, how is this working out? And then it just comes together. And you have a lot of half square triangles, and then more Minky. And I just love the quilting. She did stars and swirls, and it's just real fun.
Naomi, customers ask, is it Minky or Cuddle? And also, what is the name of the shop in Bellingham?
So the question is it Minky Cuddle? So it's, if you look it up online, it's called 90-inch or extra wide Minky 90, or it's called extra wide Minky. So the Cuddle is more like what you can get at Joann's, and that's the 44-inch wide, and it has like roses in it or little swirls. So this one's just extra wide Minky. The shop in Bellingham is called Corey's Fabric, and that's it's actually not too far from the Quality in Bellingham. It's only, I think, like 5 or 10 minutes.
And what is the pattern for this red, white, and blue quilt?
This one is called Galaxy.
And what book is it from?
This book is from the thank you. is from the Time Saving Quilts.
Thank you.
And then I'm going to show you the next book as I pull my table back. I moved my table out of the way. I love tables on wheels. Everything should be on wheels. So you guys got a little lucky this time. We brought in 3 books. So the third book is called Simple Home Decor. And this one's kind of different. It's out of the box. It's not your traditional sewing book. We wanted to bring in something different. Just, it's a new year. Let's have fun. Let's try something new. And so with this one, let me grab my notes. The first thing I made was, so I didn't make the tray. I'm not that talented. I went to Michael's. I got this from Michael's, and I used my scan and cut, and I created a template, and I used acrylic paint to paint it, and I also used Mod Podge, which was one of the options. But I will say, in this book, she really goes through several ways you can seal and create things and different techniques. So even if you don't want to make the exact thing you see, you can take parts of it and really make it your own and grow from that. She also had this idea to make coasters. You paint a base coat, and then you can take rubber bands and you wrap them around, and then you paint over it. And so I kind of did 2 different accents. And then if you want a coaster that's a little thicker, I found these at Michael's, and I found these at Hobby Lobby. And this I thought was kind of cute. I haven't painted all of them, but they're thicker. You can put some cork on the back. And then I'm still working on these, but it's a nice fun project to kind of just change things up. And I will say it's fun just walking around a store, just looking at stuff and be like, what? I want to create something. What can I buy? And then I tell my husband, I'm buying some stuff. So then I made, as my third option, was I had to do something with fabric. And I cut out fabric and I made my own pillow, put a little invisible zipper in the bottom. Now in the book, she uses a gold leaf, and I was gonna try, but I had some silver leaf, but it's been a while since I've used silver leaf, and I just said, I found this really cool paint at Michael's. This is called Color Shift, and I paired it with this glitterific paint, and this is super thick, so you kind of squeeze it out into a glob and then you paint it on. But what I did was I drew chalk lines, and then I took my ruler and I traced around, and I took the same style, the same theme as in the book, but I did paint on everything. And so I just did the color shimmer on top, and then I did color shimmer, and then I put this glitterific on top. And it's just like, it's so shiny and pretty. And so, it was a nice way to change things up and go, oh, I really enjoy painting. And so, it's fun to say, hey, let's do something different today. And so this book really spread me and made me think about doing more things around the house. And we're going to go over to Donna.
Okay, I'm going to talk to you about my time-saving quilts this month. All geared to 2.5-inch strips. There's 9 designs in the book. If you don't find the colors that you need in a jelly roll, 2.5-inch strips, then just cut your own. And this quilt was created with a certain wallpaper in mind. I have a friend whose daughter's having a baby, and she's not into to traditional pink and blue. So these were some of the colors that she picked out in a polka dot wallpaper. I found those. I cut my own 2.5-inch strips. I stitched them together in different stacked stratas and then cut my triangles and applied them to, this is a very pale gray patterned fabric, although it appears to be white. And then the pattern shows how you place 4 of those blocks differently so that they come together and make this focal block kind of off center. I did quilt this myself, and this is from the first walk book, and this is called Radiating Lines. So they all start at a center point and come out. And typically, if the project were smaller, I would use masking tape. Jackie Gehring is a big masking tape fan for keeping straight lines. But when you're trying to swing this much fabric in and out of under your presser foot and under the arm, laying a straight line of masking tape started to become a Olympic exercise for me, and it became frustrating. So I got out my blue wash away pen and my chalk. I chalked my lines in the darker fabric, and I blue penned the lines in the gray fabric. And that seemed to work way better. I was quilting faster, and I got it done super quick. And then because it was covered with blue and chalk, I gave it a great big huge wet spritz, and not a true wash, but a wet spritz, and then threw it in the dryer. So it has bloomed more than my other 2 quilts. And then I've just finished the outside edge in straight channel quilting. Now, have you ever had a really super cool idea? Like, take this fabric and put it on for your binding at a 45-degree angle? I thought that was just the coolest idea, but I had that 3 months ago, and when I cut it out the other night, I cut it on the straighter grain. It's okay. You can still see the color change between the rust and the blue, and it still coordinates really well with that outer border. And then this is what I chose for the background, is this super cute llama fabric, which repeats a number of the blocks. And then there's some of my leftover pieces for the back. Next is called Spot On, which is this quilt. And this was actually done according to the directions. It's the same size as the book. It has very wide borders, and it uses a lot of that background fabric. One thing I do want to show you, which we don't always have the advantage when we're doing these presentations on film, but this quilt is very bright, lots of contrast, white background, bright strips. And I don't particularly like white backgrounds to speak of. So I had picked out something here, some fabric here at the Tukwila store, and there wasn't enough of it. So what I bought was this gray-blue grunge in the 108-inch wide back. And I was able to buy like half as much, and then it went twice as far. So here's your block. There's this block, and then there's this 5-strip block. So you use this background fabric a lot, and then it has super wide borders. My jelly roll was all kind of nautical themed. There's some turtles and some starfish, seahorses throughout. And I was able to use the rest of the blue-gray grunge and then coordinate it with some of the strips from the jelly roll and this sort of tropical batik on the bottom. Now this was quilted by my long arm quilter, and she and I picked out this sort of moving water bubble motif, and I'm really happy with the way it turned out. It's very subtle. It's not bright like the book shows you. And then finally, let me have you take a close-up. This is called At Midnight, and it's very, very subtle changes in soft printed fabrics. My jelly roll was very bright, had lots of movement, stripes and pickup sticks and paisleys and animal prints. And I almost didn't do it because I wasn't sure it related well enough. But I went ahead, I toned it down with the beige grunge for my lattice stripping, and I just love it now. It's very linear, and so my long arm quilter and I picked out this very kind of striped linear stitch, but softens it with just slightly undulating waves that go through it. And then framed it all out in the black. The black has a little tiny bit of silver on it, which picks up the silver out of the inner stripes. And then some gold on the binding. And then here again, I came down to the grunge section at the Tukwila store, grunge fabric. And I bought the 108-inch wide grunge polka dot. And your long arm quilters just love you when you do 108-inch wide fabric for them, as opposed to lots of seams and things. So that kind of carries us into, or carried me into, the home decor book. And Naomi and I were talking about this being a jumping off point. Taking these ideas and combining them with your knowledge of fabrics, and don't feel forced into doing her project exactly the way she says. So the first thing that struck me was this creation, which is paint chips that are cut little tiny triangle paint chips. Well, first of all, I'd be so embarrassed to go into the paint store and steal this many paint strips. So there goes my brain. What can I do? Well, I've got all of these end cuts from this project. Where is this? It's here somewhere. Anyway, I got 2 of these off of each strip, one end and the other end. And so what I did is I put them together. I ended up with 6 pair. I painted a canvas with gray chalk paint, and then just started laying these squares out until I got an arrangement that I was happy with. Now, it could be an ensemble. It could be a piece of artwork that went in the same room that this quilt did. And then Naomi and I both did the coasters. I had a whole jar full of rubber bands. I don't know what was wrong with me. You used 3 and they turned out beautiful. I used 10, 12. More is better, you know. And then I sponged I couldn't find the balsa wood coaster, so I ended up getting slate, black slate from Walmart. And so then I sponged the gold on, but the coverage wasn't good. So I sponged it again. And then when I took the rubber bands off, the edges weren't crisp. I just wanted it perfect. So I spent hours on this with a little tiny paintbrush, correcting all of the sponge goobers that happened. That was my experience with the gold. I did find a balsa wood disc, and that's where my brain fired and said, how about washi tape? So I did start the silvers with the paint and was very unhappy. So I got washi tape at Walmart, came home. If you put this on a piece of wax paper, it won't take any of the stickiness away. And then you can lay your ruler along the edge and you can cut down to like a 1/16, an 1/8 of an inch of a strip. And then I just started covering up all of those black lines that weren't perfect. So both of these at some point, I'll probably go home and do these in washi tape eventually. Both of these need to be coated with like an acrylic, like a varnish. And there are some water-soluble clear varnishes out there. This one was done with Mod Podge. So there's a couple of different sealing options that you do have. But the washi tape was amazing. I've never used it before. I'm not a scrapbooker. So that is coordinating with this design, that kind of pickup stick design. And then I just chalk painted a canvas, and that replicates this look here. So you could get 3 of these canvases, paint them all one color. You could do the straight stripe design, the pickup stick design, and add anything off of a project that you're working on so that you've got a crossover between home decor and your fabric quilting. So I think that's it for me.
There's a couple questions I can answer.
Okay.
Okay, there are a couple questions on Minky. The first question is, can you put Minky on the back of a t-shirt quilt? And the answer is yes. You just need to make sure that you are stabilizing your t-shirts like you would normally do for your quilt first. So stabilize it, and then you can use Minky no problem. The second question was, do I put batting in my quilts with Minky? And the answer is yes. I do put batting. I have the quilt top, a layer of Warm and Natural, and then the Minky. Any other questions?
There is a question for Donna.
Okay, question back to Donna.
Do you leave raw edges on your quilt canvas before you put the Mod Podge on? Is that just raw edge fabric?
This is raw edge fabric, but what I did to prep it was I used the Best Press 2. I soaked it really good to get a higher stiffening than regular Best Press. And then I did a rotary cut to give it that sharp edge. And then I carefully put the Mod Podge on, because you can, if you drag your brush the wrong way, you can pull those threads away. But that Best Press 2 really helped to kind of cement those fibers in. And there were a couple places where I had to maybe pick a thread out, but yeah, good question. Stiffening that fabric, and you can see that these are cut, And so when I combined them together, I just used a fusible tape to make sure that I got that really crisp connection, and then put it down on the wet Mod Podge and then Mod Podged over the top. So, and I did forget to mention, I did show this earlier, but I had so much of this nautical fabric left that not only did I do the tabletop, the pint-sized parking, but I made these 2 trivets. So this is the rose pattern, and it calls for a circular, like a 3-inch circle. And so you start there and just do your wobbly line increasing. And then I came back with a blue wash away pen and filled in where I wanted the wobbly lines to come all the way into the center. So Naomi's has the open center, mine comes in almost and closes up. And then this is my tangent. Here again, I had so much of this jelly roll left. And I intended to show you, we talked earlier about a layer of batting and a layer of Insulbrite. So this will be a good hot pad trivet for a table. This was going to be a secret I shared with you, but I can't find my sample now. Are you ever frustrated when you cut off all of these batting edges and you don't know what to do with them? I take them, straighten them up, and then weave them together. So this is 2 layers of batting, but they've been woven over, under, over, under. I wish I had my sample. I don't know where it went. And then once I get it all tightened up, I iron a layer of Shape Flex 101, which is a fusible woven. And I just iron that over one side to keep all those woven strips together. And the Shape Flex 101 is actually the side that's on top, because it smooths all those woven edges down. But you'd never know. You'd never know that those are just throwaway strips inside this trivet. So,
Okay.
anyway.
Thank you, Donna. Okay, so we want to thank you all for joining us today. I want to remind you a couple things. After this video ends, please go on and in the comments, share your pictures of your show and tell items so that you can get entered in to win one of the drawings. And we're giving away 3 prizes, and we will be announcing those prizes next Tuesday, January 12th, noon Pacific time. So from now until then, just keep sending us pictures. We love to see what you have out there. Like I said earlier, make sure if you follow us on Facebook, then you'll get notifications of any up and coming classes and more So Fun every month. If you are in the Bellingham area, once I get done and pack up today, I will be driving back to Bellingham, and you can see most of my samples at the Bellingham store. They will be on display for probably 3-4 months. So if you're in that area, stop in, check them out. And I want to thank you all for joining us today, and we cannot wait to see you and be safe. And I hope you have a great new year. Thank you.